is to understand that because you heard that emotion, you shouldn't just automatically connect to how you feel that emotion and then say, okay, then that's it, that's what they felt. Everybody feels all the feelings that we have words for differently, and that means that that word is literally just a tip of the iceberg of what that feeling actually is. We are so used to put things in a box and we limit ourselves because of them, and there's a lot to talk about these, but I'm not sure I'm capable of explaining everything because like it's so much in my mind that it's so hard to organize and put it out in a way that, in a form that just people could understand. The thing about putting things in a box is so interesting because if we look around us about everything, be it like subjective, objective, like emotional, physical, whatever, we put everything in a box, like we label things, and then we just see things like that and we don't see how things are. Let me explain a little better. We have 4 seasons, right? Like that's what we know about weather and season. We have summer, winter, spring, and fall. We have these 4 seasons, but the beginning of the fall is not the same as the ending of the fall. The beginning of spring is not the same as the end of the spring. The beginning of winter is not the same. So it's like we can even try to put specific dates. I don't know in your country if you do that. Like here in Korea, they don't have a specific date. But where I'm from in Brazil, we usually have like a specific date for the start and the end of a season. At first, when I was in Korea, I was like, why they don't have a date for it? But now that I think about it, it makes no sense to have a date. I'm not even talking about climate change and how everything is changing. Like that's another subject. But we labeled it in 4 seasons, and I understand it makes sense. It's a good way to define what kind of weather we are having at the moment. But even the 4 seasons, they cannot just be seen as 4, because the weather and nature and whatever is changing with the weather is different all the time. Like it's always different. It's different. I had to the camera stopped recording. But what I'm saying is like that we have so many different weathers and we just label them as 4, and that's how we see them. Like I'm not saying the problem is labeling them, not at all. That's important. I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna talk about it like a little in a bit. But why I wanted to bring this up is because we don't actually think about it. We just see it as 4. So this is winter, this is winter, this is fall, and then this is fall. And then we even think it's so weird if some days it's a little warmer and it's like, this is not winter weather. Or if I don't know, later in fall the leaves are not falling and you're like, this is not fall weather. Hey guys, future Layla here. I was editing and I'm not trying to make the nature analogy any longer, but I just figured I try to explain that what I mean here is that like we labeled it, in this case nature, and then we are expecting it to act according to the label that we've put on it. And of course now we have like climate change and other reasons to be complaining or mentioning about like how it's not behaving the way it's supposed to in our minds. But even before, it's always been like this, because nature is not always the same. It's constantly changing, and it's not just changing according to the weathers, and the weathers are not like the seasons, sorry, and the seasons are not just acting the way we expect them to always. Also, like in different regions of the planet, the seasons behave differently. Like there are many places like near the equator line, for example, that do not have like 4 seasons and whatnot. But anyway, what I mean is just like people and just like anything else, we put on labels and then we don't understand when things don't behave, or people don't behave according to that label that we've put them on. And also on a personal level, we can also think that that also happens to ourselves when we label ourselves something. But yeah, let's just go back to the video. It's because like just like us, nature is alive and nature is also changing as well. Again, I'm not getting into the point where like man is kind of guilty of that as well. I'm just saying like in a perfect scenario where we didn't do anything wrong or bad to Earth, it still has its cycles and changes, and has always had. Earth before was in a state where it couldn't bear any sort of life, and now it can. Yeah, everything is made of cycles and it's changing. And what I'm saying is like we should just think beyond the labels. That's what I wanted to talk about. I just mentioned the weather thing, but for example, think about feelings and how every feeling is so different. Like, not only people feel the emotions different from each other, but we feel the same emotion differently depending on what's causing it, on in what stage of our life we are. For example, love. People try to define love. People even say, oh, this is not love, this is passion, or this is just like, you know, lust or whatnot. Like, and people keep trying to label something when it doesn't fit that label that you have in your mind. But the truth is, everybody's feeling everything different. The love a mother feels for a child is not the same as friends feel for one another, or a couple can feel for each other. I'm not saying it's less intense or it's less real. I'm just saying it's different. The way you feel, what comes with that feeling, what actions that feeling makes you take. When you feel angry, like, think about the times you felt angry. Were they all the same? And they're always different. Of course, it is important to label it, again, because that's how we communicate. That's also what I wanted to say, is like, labels are important because they are literally language. Language is a way to label everything in order to communicate, and so we know what we are talking about, and so we understand what we are talking about. That's why we put names in everything, including in ourselves, in humans. We need labels. But a lot of the times, these things, we should look beyond them. When somebody's telling you about something they felt, and I think emotions would be like the most important part of it, is to understand that because you heard that emotion, you shouldn't just automatically connect to how you feel that emotion and then say, okay, then that's it, that's what they felt, and then maybe this might be the reason why they felt that, and that this should be that reaction. Let me give you a better example. Let's say you're in a relationship and you, I don't know, you love each other, you're in a good relationship, but then like some misunderstanding or something happened. Let's say it's Valentine's Day. I don't know, just like an example. Let's say it's Valentine's Day and your boyfriend or girlfriend didn't prepare anything for you. And for you, let's say it's so important. It's something that, like, for you, is like, if I love someone, I will always give them a present on Valentine's Day because it's such an important thing for that person. It's like, I show my love for him or for her every day. Like, I say good morning, or I hug them or whatnot. Like, I always show my love. Just like Valentine's Day is just a date. This is like a very simple one that I think a lot of people might have been through, so it's easier to understand. But think about it in a bigger scale, like in how many misunderstandings happen out there because we're expecting people to react, to act in a certain way, because we assume that if they feel like that, if they have that kind of thought or feeling, that's how they're supposed to act, because that's how I was gonna act if it were me. It's important to, even when these things happen, to reflect and upon the situation and understand that, okay, it's once again me expecting people to act like I would. And again, people will also be disappointed in you here and there because they're also expecting you to act or even say, like, sometimes it's not an attitude, it's like, so they expect you to say something or to say something in a specific way. And I think a lot of it comes from this label. It's because we are so used to have everything set in stone, like this is this and that is that we don't understand that things can just be more liquid, I would say, than that. Especially with emotions, try to analyze and see it around you. Like, how, I don't know if people, like somebody or a friend or someone is telling you a story of something that happened to them and how it made them feel, and then you can imagine like how interesting it would be that if you felt the same way, you would have felt it differently, or maybe you would have a different kind of feeling. And yeah, like, we don't have words for all the nuances, all the small different kinds of feelings, and it would be impossible to, but it's just important to notice that a lot of people, that everybody feels all the feelings that we have words for differently, and that means that that word is literally just a tip of the iceberg of what that feeling actually is, and can cause or do to a person. So try not to label everything so much, or at least try to understand what can be beyond that label. And that goes also for comments and stuff on the internet, when you're like, oh, then that person, if they did that, that means they never actually felt that. Or if they did, you know, just like, I'm not saying everything was like, just try to be more thoughtful, and just like to think things a little beyond, or like outside the box, I would say, like just like beyond what comes to your mind right away. Yeah, that's it.